Hello everyone, this is my literature review for Module 2, Methods and Strategies for Teaching Adult Education. My name is Samuel Larson. The article that I chose was Digital Learning for Adults in the Context of Education Market Development. This was conducted by authors in the Ukraine out of Sumy State University and Sumy National Agrarian University. The authors place an emphasis on lifelong learning as it pertains to adult education, as well as how important digital learning is in our ever-changing world. They provide an unfortunate statistic on the present state of adult learning, with an approximate 773 million people worldwide lacking basic reading, writing, and digital skills. So there are problems that need to be addressed, and these problems were only made worse by the COVID-19 pandemic, where an estimated 60% of learners lost the ability to study. And this quote is from page 465. The crisis exacerbates pre-existing inequalities in education by preventing a significant ratio of the most vulnerable from continuing their education. So an already lacking system finds itself even worse off in the present state. They present their objective as to study digital learning for adults, and they provide a literature review with a thorough analysis of digitalization in the education market, including how the world views digital education through investments, how much money has been tied to companies purchasing e-learning tools, as well as how much money investors have in the education market itself. And the authors conducted research in the Scopus database and found rapid growth in the number of publications matching digital education and e-learning, which within the last 5 years, this rapid growth in the number of publications has led them to some conclusions. They found that adult education is regarded as the single most important factor in economic and social development worldwide. How much a country values its ability to serve its adult learning population can be attributed to how economically and how socially developed their citizens are. They also found that universal methodology does not fit perfectly for any student, and so there is a need for a change in the system of education, the education market, and connected to that, personalization is the way of the future. So they propose adaptive learning technology as the way forward. As a universal system, this one-size-fits-all approach needs to be abandoned for one that takes into account the individual needs of each individual learner. The authors find that the pandemic has greatly accelerated the need for sound educational features in a digital economy, and they recommend these 5 points to keep in mind in the design of such a system. Number 1, the system must be designed from a lifelong learning standpoint. That learning is a lifestyle and something that is always occurring. 2, the methods of obtaining knowledge are always in flux. 3, knowledge is becoming widely available and relatively cheap. 4, educational services are appearing more and more outside of traditional means. So these last 3 really highlight how many ways education and knowledge are obtained by adult learners in our digital world, the ever-changing nature of technology and all the different ways that people utilize it in order to learn. And lastly, 5, economic dynamics show a growing demand for new competencies and new forms of training. The conclusions that can be drawn are that education is a fundamental right on which all others depend. So without this fundamental right, there is much that is lacking. It needs to begin with education as a fundamental right. Also, rapid changing markets and tools demand a constant need for learning. As our as our world evolves, there is always a need for the appropriate tools and structures. For a constantly changing world, there must be a constant way to learn and grow. Also, the system needs to be adapted to digital education environments that are driven by the needs of the market. So the system must be ready to serve the needs of its population, which our present one-size-fits-all approach to adult learning may need the personalized approach that has been suggested by the authors.